millions of
Oops.
dollars.
I actually hit record. So this is a cold open. I was trying to hit the audio thing for my audio to pause and mute it. But don't worry, I'll cut this part out of the beginning.
That's all right.
But we are recording, so we're gonna actually just jump into it. Welcome everybody to another Microsoft Unboxed pod. This is episode 102. I'm your host today, Kareem Anderson. I'm joined by
David Allen. Hope everybody's doing well. Yes, if you're curious, we're recording this on a weekend, so we're just having casual conversation. So in our edits, if you happen to realize that we don't look exactly right, my esteemed co-host over there was adjusting something and put us on air unexpectedly. So here we are. Expected, unexpected. Have some tech news for you.
Yes, I hate all podcasters are doing it these days. Cold open, that's what it was, ladies and gentlemen. You caught us mid-conversation. We were actually talking about data centers, which we will get into in more in depth as we go on with our stories. We have a pretty big one about that in the doc this time. This week, we will be talking about Samsung announcing its Unpacked July 2026 event, the new Fold, the updated Fold versions, and I think the Flip are to be expected. We'll go over our thoughts about the new Fold and why Microsoft was right with the Surface Duo. Next, we'll be talking about curated videos coming to Netflix next month and what that could mean as they try to become more user-friendly, I suppose.
Or more like YouTube, one of the two.
Yes, which, again, I think they've actually even said is the biggest rival, not Paramount Plus, laughably, Disney Plus, or Apple TV, but YouTube. Microsoft is also pivoting away from OpenAI and Anthropic even further, but more recent Bloomberg report explains how they're going to do it. We also will be talking about, like I said, the data center story, which Microsoft's emissions have jumped 25% because of data centers. And now they're exploring different ways to kind of offset that. But for those of you who've been following us or any of our writing, you know that Microsoft had made a pledge to lower its emissions by, I think, in the next 3 to 4 years. I think they had a pledge in 2030 to hit a specific number. And so far, they're way off. They've actually increased that number. We'll go over that in more detail. Last, we have free play days. We know you guys like that. It is a weekend, so we will get you in and out so that you can go play some of these games or go enjoy whatever the rest of your weekend has in store for you. With that being said, I'm going to let my partner take it from here. I'll let him pick the topic. I don't know if he has a rant or not.
Let's see. I don't really have a rant this week. Technology treated me pretty well this week. Everything behaved. Knock on wood, phone link behaved. Technology didn't really upset me this week. Actually, I did some cool things with a 3D printer and figured out how to stream from a 3D printer. So that was kind of neat to play with. So technology was kind of friendly to me this week. What about you? You got anything you want to talk about before we jump into something? Anything upset you, ticked you off?
No, it's been a fairly quiet week as well. If I had to have, I suppose, any type of complaint, it's the SaaS environment that we've see ourselves kind of morassed in. I think we can actually move this back towards Salesforce if we want to point fingers. One, because I just don't enjoy Salesforce as a company, don't like them, don't respect them. But Benioff, I believe, helped usher this software as a service thing, and I think it's ruining not only our experiences, but the products themselves, what people are delivering. Because everyone thinks they can fix everything with the next update, as opposed to just putting out a finished product when you only had finite space to do it on a physical piece of media or, a paid interval of time. So software as a service kind of relies on the idea of, something like a OneDrive or Microsoft 365 or Salesforce CRM or Netflix, to be honest with you. Anything that you have to pay a monthly subscription for that is not a physical thing, but is run and you're paying mostly for the software maintenance and upkeep on it. The idea back in the day when, us old geriatric millennials were younger and our, forefathers before that, was that developers, engineers, producers of products that didn't have a software layer made the best thing that they could. Yes, there was still some timed obsolescence in a lot of these devices, but for the most part, they tried to make a thing that you could buy and maintain it for a few years or so. Now with everything getting machine learning, software layers, app support, AI, these are all things that are being tacked onto the thing, the physical thing, which is no longer being made at a premium, but sort of on the margins, because the software is the thing that you're paying for. That's the thing that you're renting. That's the thing that needs to be upkept and maintained over time. And in doing so, companies have figured out, like, once we get them hooked on the SaaS, they have nowhere else to go. They have to continue paying this fee. And then we'll just turn the dial ever so slightly every 6 months to a year. So if you're paying Microsoft 365 now, or Office 365 now, whatever rate it is per month, I think it's $9.99 for the cheapest plan. At some point, mark my words, the cheapest plan will be almost $20.
I'm going to take a minute to join you on this because, and this is Microsoft related here. I've paid a Microsoft subscription, the $99 subscription, for many years. I'm sure you have too. To, just get basic Word, basic Excel, and they keep piling on Copilot. And, they pile on Copilot and it goes up to $129 a month, or $129 a year, $119, yada, yada, yada. Well, I use OneNote a lot on my day to day. Life is in a lot of OneNote for me. I opened up my OneNote this week and, up on the right-hand side, it shows you signed in and it shows you a little icon, whatnot. And above that, there was this new tab. It said upgrade. What's this? I go over there and I click upgrade. Now, I'm not using the Copilot features in OneNote. I go click upgrade and immediately Microsoft is prompting me to give them more money. You get this, you get additional storage, you get more Copilot limits. Now, personally, I've never hit a Copilot limit that I'm aware of. I am a Copilot user. I have never hit a Copilot limit that I am aware of. I've never hit a OneDrive limit that I'm aware of. I have stayed within my personal Microsoft Office subscription now for several years. I've not had a reason to go above that. If I had the reason to go above that, I would. I'd be glad to pay more. But to your point, I remember the days of going and buying a copy of Microsoft Office in the white box with the black writing at your local favorite software store at the time, or your electronic store. You went in, you bought it. It was on CDs, DVDs, or 3.5-inch floppies. You installed that software. That's what you got. That was their best product. That was their best effort. There was no update system. There was no, patching. If it was broke, it was broke. If it didn't do something, it wasn't going to do it. And I agree. I get tired of paying subscriptions. I'll go through it with you. I pay a Netflix subscription, the lowest one, but I pay one. I pay a Hulu subscription because I do like my live sports. So therefore I need some type of service. I pay a YouTube Premium, a Google One, the Microsoft subscription, and Game Pass. And I pay for the racing simulator. Now, the racing simulator could be eliminated. Sure. I could say, that's a, subscription that is not needed. It's a pleasure subscription. The Xbox subscription could be eliminated. That's a pleasure subscription. I could live life without it. Wouldn't want to, but I could live life without it if I had to. If it came down to, fighting against necessities. Okay, but you're left with Google One. You shut that down. Gmail's not going to work. Well, if you've had a Gmail account for many years, you've been forced into a Google One subscription just based on keeping Gmail. Same with, the Microsoft subscription. Well, if you've had a Hotmail or whatever it was before Hotmail that I can't remember off the top of my head, Microsoft Live. If you've had that subscription, you've built that up over the years and you've got to pay that to keep that working. There should be options that are one-time payments for things that people need. It should be forced. You want Office? We will give you a copy of Office, the best copy we can, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Access, like we used to. It will not communicate online, at least from a subscription basis. And if you want Copilot on top of that, then we charge you that software subscription service to your point. There should be a choice here. And I think they should all have a choice. I get, things like Gmail. We don't want to go back to POP3 and IMAP servers. Those aren't going to come back, So if you want email, you're probably going to have to pay for something. Unless you're going to keep a clean inbox and keep yourself under that 15 gig limit and you're okay with Google using your data for AI or whatever it is they use it for. Probably the same for Outlook. I think there's a free tier on Outlook.com of 5 gig or something like that. I'm not sure what it is, but I think there is a free tier over there. But there should be that option to do that where people don't have to continue to fork out, because I've had some things happen in life over the last year and I've had to retool some finances. And I realized real fast how quick you're spending $400, $500, $600 on subscriptions. Especially if you're a husband and wife like yourself, my friend, with a couple of kids, and they get old enough to want those phones. Well, you've got to add them to the Apple plan. You've got to add them to the Google plan. You've got to add them to this plan. Well, they want YouTube too. You've got to buy the family plan now. It's crazy.
It's crazy, but it's also ruined development, I think, because, and this is my last point. It's not that I don't mind paying for stuff. I like paying for things. But the idea that a lot of people are, with this SaaS thing, is that they are creating features in order to justify the increase in spend. The increase in spend comes as a demand.
Yes.
It is a quarterly demand. Line must go up. So they think about charging you more before they think about what they can offer you for that charge. And then they will work a lot of companies work their way back from that. And I think that's ruining your experience as a consumer, as a user, or whatever this software is. And it's ruining their development and creativity as far as planning what features and things they want to plan, test, and deploy. What they end up doing is they'll, the accountants, bean counters come in and say, hey, we need to reach this number by the end of the quarter. Here's our plan to get to that number. What is your plan in order to justify? Because it's going to go there. We're going to have people that are going to be upset when they say, hey, why is, my CRM provider charging me another $5-10? Well, honestly, they were going to charge you that no matter what. But now they were going to the developer saying, hey, give us a few features so that we can justify why. And this is the same thing that's happening with Copilot in Microsoft 365. They're raising the price and they're justified by saying, here are your features. And to your point, a lot of people were saying, we didn't ask for this. We were just fine at the current price and the current feature set, which, back in our day would have been like, hey, here's your box copy. Even if it's a digital download, here's your optimized, sold as is product. It won't be updated for another 3 to 4 years. And if you're okay with that, here's your ride. And in 3 to 4 years, you can test out, look at the market, do your Q&A, and come back and say, all right, well, here's the features people have been asking for. So when we offer our next year's product, or 2 years from now, whatever the update cycle is, we can then say, hey, these are things you guys asked for, which means that you shouldn't be upset about paying more for them. versus you're paying more for them and you didn't ask for them. That's my end of this. We've always spent almost 15 minutes on it. Go ahead.
Let's ask our users a question then, because then I'll ask you. Maybe we can get some comments on this. What feature from any product, any subscription that you pay for, when you get those emails quarterly now, it seems like, or every 6 months, every year, when you get that price increase email and they list out all the things they've done or the things they've developed, to your point, to justify that increase, to you and to our readers and listeners and watchers, what feature and what company offered that feature that made you say, yes, I will justify that price increase because I use that feature. I need that feature. Name one. Name one. I don't have one.
I think most people won't have one. So with that being said, let's get into our first story, which is Netflix. I think that's a good segue.
Yeah, let's jump on into Netflix here. This kind of made me scratch my head a little bit. And August 3rd, Netflix is adding content. So guess what's probably coming later this year? The price increase. August 3rd across US, Canada, UK, Ireland, and Australia, and even New Zealand. Let's not leave New Zealand out. You'll be able to watch short curated videos from major digital publishers without leaving the Netflix app. The new content will include popular videos on food, travel, fashion, entertainment, wellness, lifestyle, and more. The videos will range from 3-minute clips to 20-minute long episodes, offering viewers new ways to find ideas such as cooking, traveling, fashion, inspiration, celebrity features, home design tips, and more. Just to give you some idea of who's coming in, we've got BuzzFeed, we've got magazines like Cosmopolitan, we've got Penske Media, we've got People Magazine, Entertainment Weekly, Food and Rolling Stone, The Hollywood Reporter. Let's see, and we've got some more coming later this year. Couple of shows you're gonna see is 80s Open Door, BuzzFeed's Draw You Cook, Ellie's Where Is the Lie, People's My Life in Pictures, and Taste Masters Struggle Meals. I get it. More subscribers, more content, more subscribers. But this is going to be one of those cases where I don't think people are going to care much about this particular content. Usually when you go to Netflix, you're going for a purpose. I don't think this is it. I think you go to YouTube for this type of content. I could be wrong, but later this year, we will all get that email of we added this, so your price is going up $1, $2, $3, etc., because we've got to pay the license fees for this content and pay these people to produce this content. Netflix, stay in your lane. Your lane is movies, documentaries, older movies, older TV shows. Those are the things I watch. If I want this type of stuff, I'm going youtube.com, I'm typing it in, and I'm going down the YouTube rabbit hole, and I think this is what everybody else is going to do.
Aha.
What's that? What you got?
This is Netflix's argument, and you're kind of making it for them.
Okay, what have I done?
If you want those things, you're going to go to YouTube. But what if those things were on Netflix and you just stayed a little longer? And then not only did you stay, you told your brother about it. And then he got a subscription. And then he stayed. And then he told his neighbor about it. And they got a subscription. And then they stayed. And then it goes on and on and on. Till we have the whole world subscribed to Netflix. We're your everything app. That's what every app wants to be. I know we joke about the Elon thing and his ambitions of everything, but essentially that's what all of these things are. They're all vying for attention. And so
you're not wrong there.
And as a multifaceted human being, and I'm not, patting myself on the back, all of us are, we all have different needs for different types of content. Yes, we have figured out in our own way, which we use our phones, to curate those siloed content silos, to organize those content silos. So I know that I go to Facebook to, catch up on friends and family and birthdays and the occasional random cooking thing. I go to Instagram for maybe politics and influencers and hot chicks and comedy. I go to Threads for randomness. I go to Blue Sky for news. I go to YouTube for news and entertainment. Every app wants you to say, hey, I go here for everything. And to your point, none of them want to stay in their lane. They think they can do all of it. Netflix added gaming because they see it as a natural progression. Hey, you're on, you game on your couch, you game on your, with the TV. So instead of running to your Xbox and your PlayStation, why don't you just stay on Netflix and play some of our crappy games? And instead of going to YouTube, you're on Netflix. Why did you watch this content that's very similar to it? And eventually we'll be able to create content or have users who create content and put it on the platform. I think Disney was on the verge of that with this AI thing that blew up in their face, but I think they see where the winds are going. And again, imagine if you were to say, I have a channel on Netflix. You should go to Netflix and watch my channel.
So,
good.
So are we going to say that you bring up a very valid point here. YouTube does not have a competitor. Several have tried, and there's ones like Flow Playing and whatnot that, Linus and those have done, and those guys have came up with their own little private social media platforms that you pay for. But YouTube has yet to have a competitor. Can Netflix do that? Is that maybe what they're thinking about long term, is maybe we can be the YouTube competitor?
Yes. And, here are all the benefits that they see. And again, I'm not, seeing four-dimensional chess. This is just following the money. YouTube has no competitor, one of the biggest platforms out there for video content, that they don't have to pay The Rock or Ryan Reynolds or, Tom Hanks to create a show. They don't have to pay directors. They don't have to pay union fees. They don't need to have a union workers setup. They just say, hey, you pay to watch other people provide content that we pay pendants to. They pay out people, bigger content creators, and they can always raise that. And without having a union, because these are unionized people, they can always say hey, you know what? For each video, you make 10%. And I'm Netflix, I'm changing it to 5 now. And you can't argue that. There's no union to argue for. You're just going to say, well, I can either do that or I can try to make a living on TikTok, start all over, or go somewhere else. And Netflix owns that. That's what they want to do. As opposed to saying, hey, we bought this, the rights to this project, this video. Now we have to staff it. We have to make sure that everyone stays healthy while filming it. We have to, pay the writers out, pay them residuals, draft contracts for licensing fees when we put it on other platforms. They want to get to the point where you, David, put your channel on Netflix saying, hey, I just sit here and talk about other movies. And they can say, all right, we'll pay David. We'll cut him off $35,000 a year for a check. Because, say he does tons of great content. He's one of our best content guys. He only makes $35,000 a year. As opposed to being a paid actor saying, hey, he's worth $2-3 million. Netflix wants to get to that. And that's the bottom line. That's where their money's at. So this is why they're doing some of this curated stuff. This is why they see their biggest competitor being YouTube, because that's the model they want. We want to own everything, but everything that we own is created by you, not by us. We don't have to spend anymore. That's enough of a rant. Let's get on to our next topic. We will talk about Microsoft announcing 48,000 job cuts. Tough news, ladies and gentlemen. And 3,200 of it
upset me on a weekend,
because I want to do the this is the old parenting trick. I'll give you the bad up front, and then there's ice cream coming later. We'll have some more fun stuff to talk about, as opposed to the very end where I give you all the ice cream and I'm like, all right, now it's time for the peas, and you're like, oh, what?
Okay, give me the peas.
Yeah, here's the peas now. Microsoft announced, and this is actually kind of old news, but like I said, it was kind of a slow week for us, and they announced this on we recorded last Friday, and they announced it roughly after we'd finished recording. So we didn't get a chance to cover it. It's actually been reverberating in the news because of the 4,800 job cuts. 3,200 were from the Xbox division alone. So this wasn't like mowing the lawn. This is like weeding one specific area, just cutting all around that tall grass in the uneven section.
And 1,600 of them were immediate. Remember that?
Oh, even worse. Yes, exactly. So if you, are a person who lives in the world, you may have been on LinkedIn or seen a bunch of people on LinkedIn, a bunch of friends of yours going, hey, I'm available for work. Give me some recommendations. And they are all stemming from the amount of people who have gotten cut from the Xbox division. And that includes, mostly game developers and people in studios. So it's had a real effect. Microsoft is basically saying they wanted to cut 2.1% of their global workforce. And it's corporate talk for saying, hey, we need to disguise or cover up some of this only Xbox firing by getting rid of some sales guys, probably. They like to cut those every so often. Sales guys are pretty expendable on the Microsoft side. And when I say sales guys, usually the guys that go out and say, hey, your business needs this thing. Your business needs more of our stuff. They have quotas. Not everyone, makes that quota. So it's easy to get rid of them. Sometimes they're contracted. But they can also be rehired too. So that's a fluid one. But the Microsoft jobs thing, the Xbox job thing, isn't as fluid. That's people who have been working at Undead Labs, which is one of the companies that got spun off and sold to another company for years. I'm talking 5 to 15 years, dedicated their whole lives to making just video games. And all of a sudden Microsoft said, hey, we don't need you. Despite the fact saying we want to change the way gaming is done in a positive way. They talk out of one hand while, taking from us in the other hand. For some of the more detailed specifics of this, like I said, the 3,200 Xbox roles were eliminated over the fiscal year with 1,600 cuts, like you said, immediately. The cuts spanned most of Microsoft's Xbox studios and platform teams, though no announced games were canceled. Like we said, Undead Labs was one of the ones on the chopping block. It did get spun off. They just recently posted something, I think, on Twitter. I think it was Reddit, actually, in the Reddit, saying, hey, we will have more information for you guys later, but State of Decay 3 is, as of, I think, Friday, still on schedule and ready to be released at, its designated time. So up to 14 layers of management is going to be cut. And I think this is something that Asha said, in which, in all fairness, I don't think most companies need 14 layers of involvement for projects. It's a lot of middle management, I think. It feels like there should be a ton of overlap, and I get getting rid of that to streamline some things. But how about you guys get rid of that first before cutting the studios or telling them quit your projects altogether? Understand, and again, do it gradually. Maybe 14 is too many. Try cutting down to 13. Then maybe 12. Then maybe 10. Then maybe 5, realizing, okay, that's the sweet spot. As opposed to saying, we're going to cut down to 3. Oh, it's not working? Get rid of the project. Platform teams saw 40% larger than the start of the generation, and despite declining player base and play times, Microsoft is saying, because some of these studios aren't producing at, AAA level numbers as far as playthrough or retention, that gives a justification to cut them. I don't agree with that. I think people just move on to different things at different times, and things can come back in style depending on, the availability. Major structural shifts involve studios like Double Fine and Compulsion Games, Ninja Theory and Undead Labs, Arcane Lion, Mojang, and King, I guess Candy Crush or whatever, will now report directly to Asha. We didn't know what King was doing prior to this. It was kind of always just referred to as Activision Blizzard as the big two that we were looking at, but King is the other big thing in the portfolio. Now they report to Asha, and I don't know how Candy Crush hasn't been talked about being cut off, but I don't know. When was the last time you heard someone say, I'm excited to play Candy Crush?
I haven't heard Candy Crush mentioned in I forgot about it until you said it just now. And I have not heard that mentioned in a long, long, long time. That kind of goes kind of the way of Angry Birds too. And those are titles you just hadn't heard mentioned in a long time. So why are we spending the money to keep old Candy Crush around? I thought we had moved on past that with the Fortnites and those style of games that, I remember when Candy Crush was the addiction. I remember when Pokemon was the addiction. But Candy Crush is still alive, I take it.
Yeah, and again, to your point, prioritization. I'd say keep Undead Labs, but hey, that's just me personally, a personal bias. Again, part of the letter that was sent out to a bunch of people about the announcement was also geared at, let me make sure I get this right. Quote, today in some parts of the company, work passed us through as many 14 layers of management. Our platform teams are 40% larger than where they were at the start of the generation. Even as our player base and playtime declined, the complexity has slowed decisions, blurred accountability, and made it harder to deliver for players. As we reset Xbox, we will simplify. I mean, again, we've talked about how she built up quickly some goodwill, but it seems like she, through actions, is chipping away at that.
I want to take this differently than my usual approach. If I'm cranky about layoffs, I will always be cranky about layoffs. I will always blame companies. I will always say companies need to be punished for layoffs or pay some type of penalty or something. I will always do that because it's not an employees' fault that they were hired and then later laid off due to bad decisions. But I see Xbox is in deep trouble. I see Xbox as a whole is in deep trouble, and I could not convince my brother to come on the podcast, but he and I had a conversation after this announcement, and he brought up a very good point. He plays a lot of different games. I'm kind of a one or two trick pony. I play a couple of genres and I move on, but he plays a lot of different things. And he brought up, there's no quality replayability in anything right now. You pick it up, you play it, you get that initial enjoyment out of it, and there's nothing that says, I've got to go back. I can't wait to get home from work. I can't wait to get home from school. I can't wait to, get with my friends to play XYZ. And he and I remembered those days when you were excited to come home from school or college or wherever you were, work or whatever, and play Halo, Gears of War. You were excited to do that. He and I had the best time playing Gears of War, co-op. We would look forward to that. He'd say, look, are you done with the day? And I'd say, yeah, I'm done with the day. You done? Okay, good. We got 2 hours. Let's go. We'd throw on the headsets and we were gone. And until somebody knocked on a door or the wife said, hey, do you realize what time it is? You got to go to work tomorrow. We were playing. What game makes you do that these days? What experience makes you do that these days? It's not handheld. It's not your phone. It's not your console. We're not seeing quality titles come out. Now, Asha has made I feel like she's pivoting back to exclusives. She mentioned that. There's been talk of that we're going back to exclusives. But there should have been an exclusive to talk about right there. There should have been something to talk about. Or hey, we'll have something for you next month. Or we'll have something for you this quarter. We've got a big announcement coming. We've got something. Something to make me say, hey, I'm excited about what Xbox is doing again. Because as a gamer, I used to look forward to this time of year. College Football 27 came out this week. Madden 27 will come out next month. Then I'll get the new Call of Duty in October. Those were times that I looked forward to. It's what kept me engaged. And maybe that's the grand scheme of things. There's nothing to keep you engaged in Xbox right now. There's not been anything to keep you engaged in Xbox for a long time. And I think the last time gamers were engaged was Nintendo Switch 2. Am I wrong?
No, you're not. Yeah, I agree with engagement. I also would like to see, and again, this is just wish casting. To your point, companies not only take accountability, but maybe our government step in.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people on here will be like, no, not the government. But at some point, they need to step in and say, hey, if you're going to do mass firings, let's do them once a year. Let's let your competitors potentially pick up the scraps. No NDAs and be like, hey, you know what? On February's, or, you don't even have to announce when you're going to do them. Just if you're going to let go a mass amount of people, have the wherewithal within your company, with the foresight within your own abilities, projections, which most companies have, of what you're going to do and why you need to fire these people at that time. So again, you're looking a year in advance to the future. We're expecting to hit these results. Q1, we're on pace. Q2, we're not. Q3, we're still not. Q4, okay, we missed it. Next year, we fired all these people because we missed that spot. That's a story, while unfortunate, shows, bad management and whatnot, but it's something people can justify by saying, hey, they missed it. They weren't making money. This is why you let go. This is what every normal person understands about a business. Unless you are a total mess up yourself, it's only when the company is not doing enough to sustain itself, to be able to pay you, that they let you go. It is so weird that we've allowed companies to be like, hey, we're making billions with a B each quarter, but we have to let you go.
Well, I'm going to add one thing to this because it was done in my family several years ago. And several years ago, when my dad was in his prime, he was let go from a job of many decades. He was a supervisor where he worked. He didn't see it coming. Everything was good. They just walked in one day and said, leave your phone on the table. We'll take you home. You're done. Here's your severance package. And they handed him a stack of papers. He was lucky enough to get 1 year of pay, insurance, just as if he was going to work for the very next year, 12 months. And I know you have experienced layoffs. We experienced it many years ago in my household when I was much younger. There should be rules and regulations, and it should be based upon the amount of money that you make. I think, because I think Microsoft should be forced. They, whatever the threshold is, I'm sure Microsoft would be above it. If you fire somebody, you are responsible for that person for the next 12 months. It doesn't matter if they're at the low end of the payroll, they've been there 6 months, they've been there a year, they've been there 20 years. It doesn't matter if they're at the upper end of the payroll. We've got to help employees and protect employees from corporate bad decisions, period. Okay, I'll stop. This is a soapbox for me, so I'm going to stop. Because when you've got people in offices, no matter the job, that are busting their butt for that company, and then you walk in and go, you're done, bye. Oh, and we'll give you, a week's paycheck, 2 weeks paycheck a month. Oh, and then you're on your own. So that new house you just bought or you planned, all the planning that your family had done was based on you having that job. They shouldn't be able to interrupt people's life cycles like that or life plans that way so quickly. That's it.
No, I am all for it. And that is David, PAG, for president 2028, ladies and gentlemen. You got my vote.
Thank you, bud. Thank you.
Next story we got is Samsung announcing Galaxy Impact July 2026. This is your story. I'll let you run with it.
Yeah, this was a short one, but I have a good idea where it's going. Let me get scrolled up to where we got it here, but we've got the Samsung event coming July 22nd. So let's see, we're at the 11th now. So 11 days from now in London, Samsung is calling this the unveiling of the newest addition to the Galaxy portfolio, combining intelligence, AI, with innovative factors. The event will be streamed on the Samsung.com website or Samsung's YouTube channel, and it will begin at 2 p.m. BST or 9 a.m. for us here in the United States, 9 a.m. Eastern. Now, at first, when I first read this, I said, well, we're just getting the new Fold, which is what, the Fold 8 at this point? But it says newest additions to the portfolio. So are we getting something we haven't heard about yet? We've got the Flip. We've got the Fold. We don't usually get the new Galaxies until the beginning of the year. So I wouldn't expect a new, Galaxy Ultra 27 until early next year. So are we getting something maybe we haven't seen yet? Maybe it's not a phone. Maybe it's a folding tablet. What are you thinking, buddy? Or are we just getting an iteration, or are we getting a new product here? I looked around and really didn't see a whole lot of leaks, which is, good for Samsung, but I didn't see a whole lot of leaks. I didn't see a whole lot of people guessing. But the way the announcements worded, I will say they've made me guess a little bit.
Yeah, it has been rumored heavily that we're going to get the Fold Wide, I guess, or whatever the version that they're going to name this thing. In part because Apple is expected to come out with its folding phone, whatever they call that, later in September.
iPhone.
There you go. I mean, it's right there. Just like Apple Intelligence was. Doesn't mean it's good, but it's there. So yeah, we're speculating that we get the Fold Wide. Excuse me. And for those of you who are sitting there going, well, what does a wide phone do differently than the Z Fold? Those are people who have never played with the Surface Duo. The Surface Duo was a dual screen, not a single screen, but a dual screen, foldable, closable, I guess you can call it, that was short and stout. It was wide. So imagine for those of you who need a visual, just close your eyes and picture the first the first Google Pixel Fold. That was a more passport-like booklet type foldable.
All right. Well, could we hit a bigger market here by saying maybe the first or second iPhone? If you put two and two side by side, would that be?
I guess. I think it's still gonna be hard for people to understand because all they're gonna see is two phones together, as opposed to two fold that closes on itself. But yeah, I mean, to your point, anybody in the Apple ecosystem, you can picture an iPad mini that you can fold.
There you go.
Take an iPad mini, fold it up, put it in your back pocket. That's what they're going for with the iFold, and this is what Samsung's doing. Over the years, Samsung's development for the Galaxy Fold has been tall. It's been a chocolate bar, it's been a slab, but it's always been taller and narrower than most phones, especially most modern foldables. I guess people realize that they want to use the front screen most of the time because there aren't a lot of apps or a lot of app experiences that warrant the wider screen. But when they are there, they're godsend. Like I said, it's like you're on a tablet. Now, before Samsung kind of etched and pioneered and sculpted this market, they knew they wanted people to use the inside of the screen. That's where all the technology went. That's where all the amazement went. That's where all the vision went. They didn't care about the outside screen. So if you look at the years of the Samsung phone, the screen on the outside has evolved. It used to be, I think it was 2/3 of whatever the tall part of the screen was. You had a bunch of black bars around it. It was hideous. It was a very ugly thing. But once you opened it, you got a tablet experience. Over the years, they've increased the size of the screen on the outside so that you can use it more, that you can engage with it more. You can do your social media posts. You can, message people. You can pick up a phone call, and everything that you need to do with a regular phone. And then on the inside, you open it up and you get your tablet. You get your multi-windows. You used to have pen support. you can, get different keyboards that would work and operate. And this would again be like your mini tablet. Now it seems like they're settling on the fact that people might want or getting tired of the tall aspect ratio phones. So imagine if you had a passport or a short book that when it's closed, it's a wide phone, just like, I think it's rumored to be about as wide as a Galaxy Ultra, I think, yeah. Is that what they call those now? The Galaxy Ultra. It's about as wide as that.
I had to think about it a minute, and I actually looked over at the one that I have.
It's about as wide as a Galaxy Ultra, but chop off about a third of the top. So you'll be able to navigate it one-handedly. It's still pretty wide, but you'll be able to navigate it one hand. You won't have to reach the top corners in this 21:9 aspect ratio. It'll be much shorter, but when you open it up, you get that 4:3 aspect ratio that most iPads sit at, which is, I think, the sweet spot for it. That's what we're rumored to get. We're also rumored to get the flip, I think, a new set of earbuds, and possibly a redefining of the watch and all the sensors. I don't know if they're going to revisit the Ring. They've been very quiet on that. I wish they would, build a much thinner, more price sensitive and accessible version of their Ring, because I think that's
I don't think the Ring got off like they thought.
I don't think so either, but I'm hoping they revisit it.
I've not heard it mentioned. I've not heard anybody talk about it. I've not seen, I've seen where a few reviewers have it, but I've really not seen where anybody have bought it either.
Yeah, they've been very quiet this year about the Ring, so hopefully they revisit that. But that's what we're expecting. So again, and unfortunately, this is Samsung, so they will continue the regular fold, the fold that everyone's used to, that has developed an ecosystem as far as cases and holders and magnets and all the other things that go with the Z Fold 7 and the Z Fold 6, essentially. The Z Fold 8 will, there's a version that will come out, but they will also come out this much shorter, stout one. And the other thing we're expecting, which is the bad part of it, is that everything's going to go up in price.
I was fixing to ask you, $2,500 maybe?
I mean, if you're lucky. I think this new Square one is going to be $27 because they have to do new milling for the new screen aspect ratio. They don't have a generation or two to fall back on to say, okay, well, we'll just keep producing. We paid all the R&D for this specific aspect ratio for this screen, and we're just going to carry it over for the 8. So all we're really, working on or refining is maybe the battery capacity, tweaking of the cameras, and that's it. But they have to cut out this new screen, and that's all upfront cost for them. Plus the RAM and all the other AI related things.
I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to do it. I have to.
What are you doing? You don't have to do anything. You always have a choice.
Well, I'm not giving myself a choice. All right, we got a $2,700 phone, right?
Yes.
Let's assume $2,700. Most of the big carriers, assuming you don't buy something outright, is 36 months.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is assuming no trade-in, no force to the higher plan. I kind of got sucked into the higher plan with Verizon on my last deal, and I'm running on the highest plan for the 36 months where I'm paying
Sucker.
the phone. Yeah, I got suckered, but now to be fair, when my father got sick, I used those extra resources, and it was beneficial, and we were able to do podcasting and all of that good thing. So, I kind of look back on that and go, I'm glad I have it. But now I could care less about having many gigs of hotspot and many gigs of this and many gigs of that. I don't use it. But to my point, if you're looking at a $2,700 phone, you're looking at $80 a month roughly to pay for said phone over the 36-month period. Who is going to pay $80 a month for a device? I think we're over the limit of what the average consumer is going to pay for.
I agree with you. I think the average consumer is not going to pay that much. This might be a novelty, which is, again, just shows you the amount of confidence they have in this, because they're not discontinuing the tall one. They're having 3. This is kind of like when they did that third foldable. Remember the one that opens in trifold?
That's true. Yeah, because didn't they do that in just a specific country? And some of the reviewers imported it or something and
Correct.
were able to get their hands on a few.
Hmm. I think this is going to be another option. If they're smart, they'll add pin support to this one. And I think this is where the Surface, again, if those of you who have never played with the Surface Duo, go look at some videos. I think there was something magical about that booklet size that, again, offers the ability to use the front, but it's something magical when you open it and have that much wider aspect ratio. That's Samsung Unpacked. We'll, keep an eye on it. Obviously, we'll report on it and all the goodies that come with it. We're moving on to our next topic, which is, what do we got? Microsoft pivoting away from OpenAI.
The divorce is here, folks. We're divorcing.
Yes, we have been writing about this quite a bit on our website. We've been talking about how since Microsoft announced its Microsoft AI models, I think they came out with 7 of them about a month and a half ago, that, they're looking obviously to get off of this merry-go-round with OpenAI. It was great to announce it. It was fun to have that whole showboating aspect when Satya Nadella came out and said, hey, we're going to make, Google dance. Well, Google's dancing and they're tap dancing all over Microsoft. And Microsoft is chained to OpenAI, which many have speculated is in a bubble-like cycle. The only people who are generating enough compute or necessary compute for it is OpenAI, but they can't afford to use it, so they keep coming rounds of funding. Microsoft is looking to say, hey, you know what? Maybe we don't need all of the compute that OpenAI needs as well. Maybe we can just get away with some small language models of our own, own the entire stack, the development and the release cycles. It seems like, there was I think the most recent story in Bloomberg is saying that Microsoft is accelerating that shift. Again, we've been writing about it for the last almost 2 years, but it seems like over the last 6 months or so, they really want to get out of this. I think Microsoft has increased the amount of investment in Maya and Cobalt chips, expanded global data centers, and it became more that the global data centers that they have aren't being stacked full of language models to train for OpenAI. They've been there for efficiency-focused model architectures, like their Microsoft AI models, the text to chat, voice to image, voice to reasoning and research. All of those type of models, Microsoft's going to start offering. And Anthropic has been their in-house enterprise version. It seems like they've designated Copilot, when used with Microsoft 365, it leans heavily on the Anthropic. Copilot, when used with Windows or anything that's consumer facing, is OpenAI and whatever their new models with. But I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing the Microsoft models being first tested and run at scale with Microsoft 365 and eventually bringing over its consumer facing ones. What are your thoughts on Microsoft accelerating this, plus its most recent relationship with OpenAI?
Well, I think the relationship with OpenAI was what everybody wanted in the beginning. OpenAI was what started this whole, hey, AI is here thing. OpenAI was the name you heard of. Then you heard of ChatGPT. Everybody wanted in, and it was all about, who had the model. Who had the model? That's the contract you sign. Now, my company, my feature, my product has AI. Look what we did. We're not telling you that this is powered by OpenAI necessarily, but we signed a contract with OpenAI, and now all of our products have AI features because we're paying for it. Kind of like leasing a car. But eventually, now that this AI thing is in its more mature stages, everybody wants their own. I don't want to pay that bill anymore. So let's see if we can cut costs and customize, and, we can charge our customers more, that we're back to that subscription thing again. We can, hey, we've got our own model and it does this, it does that, and it does this better than OpenAI. Give us $2 more a month. Multiply $2 more a month times millions of users, and look what you just created. We've talked about data center usage. This will give Microsoft a chance to optimize models. maybe make them more efficient, maybe make them, need less resources. Maybe it helps with the RAM crisis. Maybe it helps with the GPU crisis. Point being, I think everybody knew this move was coming, but I think in the end, the AI partnerships of OpenAI kind of dwindling and everybody's building their own models. Gemini's got their own models. You've got MCPs now. Hook up your MCP. What's an MCP? That's where you bring in your own model that you're already paying for to use with a certain product. There is a graphic product that I use. I'm not going to name it. It's a third-party deal, but they sell a subscription, or I can just bring in my Gemini model or my Copilot model and use what I'm already paying for. So I'm not surprised, and I think we're going to see more of this. I think the OpenAI Microsoft relationship is just the one that makes the news. That's the one we talked about. That was the $10 billion loans was what they were called at the time. We're loaning money. And, OpenAI got multiple loans from multiple people. So now OpenAI may have to figure out how to make their own product and survive on their own.
Yeah, this, to your point, this isn't a mutually exclusive deal. OpenAI has, in the last 3 months, been really touting their partnership. We just signed a partnership with AWS.
Yeah.
We're not soothsayers here. We just kind of read what the numbers are and the facts are. And on the ground, OpenAI looks like it's realizing that its business is in business, not me and David, writing fanfic with AI. This isn't, that's not what's going to pay the bills. What's going to pay the bills is getting businesses to buy at scale. And then they're also, like I said, we mentioned this before, they're moving towards tokenization, meaning they're going to be able to charge businesses a direct one-for-one. What they used to do is they would subsidize the cost as a marketing initiative, saying like, hey, for $200 a month per seat, you can essentially use $14,000 worth of AI. They didn't say it that way, but basically that's what it came to. When they said, hey, for $200 a month, you get unlimited access to our language models to do whatever it is you want. Well, it's expensive to run a model.
Yes.
It is very expensive. And what they were doing was saying, hey, it's, for $200, this company A is eating about $14,000 in dollars worth of AI. But what we're going to do is we're going to charge them $200 because that's what we thought it was going to be. And we'll have to figure out a way to get to $14,000. And the way that they're going to do it is tokenization by saying, hey, you know what? You can pay. Here's the one-for-one. If you find AI useful, then yeah, you're willing to pay $14,000 for the AI models and the usage of that. But if you don't, then maybe you only pay $250. But now you know what the upfront cost is, and we don't have to sit back and keep eating that cost because it was ruining our business. Now what they're going to find out though is that most businesses are going to say, hey, I only need about $5 worth of AI, man. I need a couple images. I need some, brand brainstorming. I don't need what you were charging me for that was worth $14,000. And that's where I think Microsoft is seeing the writing on the wall because again, they run compute for OpenAI. And when companies start saying, hey, AI, OpenAI, we don't need all of this, that starts to drive Microsoft money as well. If Microsoft can pivot to saying, hey, yeah, you may not need, $1,400 worth of OpenAI, but maybe you do need $150 in addition to the productivity tools and the cloud syncing that we're already giving you for our models. Our models specify in translating Excel docs into visualization. We take your Excel doc, you manage, mix it with a little bit of our magic AI, you spit it out to Power BI, and now you have visualization of the last 14 years of seasonality within your company. You can show your boss, like, as opposed to just saying, here are the numbers. This is what it looks like May, June, July, August, September, January, all the way through. And I got your visualization. It was done with AI because I couldn't process 13 years worth of, sales and revenue and, what happens when we fire people during the summer versus when we fire people during fall. I did that with AI, but because I use Microsoft, I put all that AI information in the Power BI and it came out with the visualization that makes sense to you. That's where all these companies are running towards, and Microsoft realizes, hey, they already have a foot in business. They already have their foot in the door for business. Now they're going to be able to control the models themselves and charge whatever they need to and not have to kick any money back to OpenAI or rely on OpenAI and its development cycles by saying, hey, OpenAI is promising, ChatGPT 6.0 in 2027 in May. We can do a fairly succinct version or similar or facsimile of that December 2026. So we can start charging people in January as opposed to having to wait until OpenAI gets its act together and then potentially offer a subpar brand, because OpenAI tends to do that. They release ChatGPT new version. People say, this sucks. And then they backtrack for half a year while they test out the kinks and the bugs, tell you to go back to 4.5 or 4.6 until we get 5.0 worked out. Then Microsoft has to, on their end, because they're just covering or, basically wrapping their UI aesthetic around it, saying, hey, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, you just have to wait till when OpenAI is done for the new version of Copilot. With these new small language models, they can just say, hey, you only need it for doing this one job. And that's all we're training it to do. And we do it every month, every year, or every 6 months. You get the latest and we control it. So again, we've been writing about it for a few years. I'm waiting to actually hear the news of this contract has come to an end. Microsoft is now fully dependent on its own models. And then what the next earnings report looks like when they can't fudge the numbers a little bit by saying, yeah, we sold all this compute to OpenAI, which is our compute. So Azure looks like it's doing blockbuster numbers. It's kind of self-bidding. But if they can cut off that and say, all right, this is the real usage of our cloud from real people, from real companies, no longer obfuscated by our dealings with OpenAI, they're going to take a hit, but I think it'll be stabilized enough to say, hey, they're on a steady ground. If this bubble does pop, they're in a very good position to not go down with the ship, which is OpenAI, which I think when the bubble does pop, OpenAI and Anthropic are going to be in a world of hurt.
And too, just something to throw out there as a comment. It gives Microsoft the ability to control cloud spending. And I think when you get to, Google has always stood on its own with their models. I don't know that as they have ever partnered with anybody. And, Microsoft had their partnership with OpenAI, and there's been others that have partnered in. But when you start singling this out, it kind of makes, in my mind, it makes a complete circle, because we're talking, you caught us at the beginning talking about data centers. When you accidentally hit record, it was kind of, maybe that was an innuendo of some sort, because if you've now got Microsoft having to look directly at its cloud expenses with these models, Google is now looking directly at theirs. OpenAI is for darn sure looking at theirs now, because they don't have all these partnerships hanging out there. Maybe you get optimized models. Maybe you get things done differently. Maybe you find new ways to, compute these models. Then what happens? Less data center usage, less data center need, less arguing from people that don't want data centers because we figured out how to optimize this. Maybe they even find a way to recycle some of their waste, because now they are responsible for what they use. You've lost audio, buddy.
I was on mute. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I was extolling David's ability to give me the Scottie Pippen alley-oop to Jordan on this next one, because our next topic and our last one as far as news is concerned is Microsoft admitting that its emissions have jumped 25% because of AI data center use.
That was the Jordan to Pippen move there.
It was beautiful. Missed it. Yeah, I know. Just right over my head. Airballed that. Sorry. But he did set it up for me. Microphone issues aside, Microsoft's latest environmental sustainability report shows that a 25% year-over-year increase in carbon emissions, and it's rising to about 21 million metric tons, despite driven by two converging factors. I'll let you guess.
Partnerships.
And
help me out on the second one.
It's a little more technical. It's RECs. Basically, it's a controversial greenwashing mechanism that previously allowed the company to claim renewable energy usage without consuming renewable electricity. So they were basically getting like credit for saying that they were going to do a thing before actually doing a thing. But yes, most of it is rapid expansion of AI data center infrastructure, which significantly increased energy demand. Now, again, if you've been following myself, David, any other writers that have been covering tech in general, a lot of these companies do this sustainability report. A lot of them, especially, I want to say right before data centers, AI became a thing, we're talking about the carbon footprint and how they plan to square that away with their businesses, saying, hey, you know what, we're going to reduce, and specifically Microsoft, because that's what we covered, talked about how they're going to reduce their carbon footprint. And they made a declaration like, hey, we have all these projects, all these new ways of technology to cut emissions, to reduce wasteful, expenditures of water, resources, natural resources. And we project by 2030, we'll have been able to cut our our carbon footprint by set amount. I think it was like 30, 40% or something like that is what Microsoft wanted to say. Now that was in 2020, 2021. Fast forward to AI being a thing now, and they've not only eschewed being able to do that, they've increased it. So it wasn't even like saying, hey, we're going to stay flat and level at our 2022 levels. We're unfortunately haven't been making any progress, but or the progress that we were made was consumed by the AI. So we've remained flat. They've increased it. And again, I don't know if we have any climate deniers listening to our podcast. Wouldn't imagine that would be the group. I don't see a Venn diagram of that. So I'm going to respect your guys' intelligence and understand that there is a climate issue. There's a reason why they have these sustainability reports and why Microsoft was trying to get ahead of this. And it seems like because of AI, they just gave up on it altogether. The report clarifies that widely circulated claims of 34 million metric tons are incorrect of what Microsoft's expending, but the number does reflect a counterfactual estimate of what emissions might have been without certain reduction initiatives, e.g., Xbox efficiency improvements, renewable energy purchases, sustainable aviation, marine fuel certificates, and supply chain decarbonization. The estimates are illustrative only and not part of Microsoft's official emissions inventory, but it does show that, again, Microsoft has gone all in on data centers, and data centers are proving to be an albatross for the areas that they've been planted in and the companies that are doing it. Now, for those of you who are listening, we're showing a video, and this is of one of the more controversial data centers that have sprung up over the last year. Now, there've been a ton, and I want to respect everybody's opinion on this. I know that they're all over the place. Now, I apologize if we haven't covered a data center in your backyard, but one of the more recent ones was this one AI data center for, I believe the gentleman's name is Kevin O'Leary, a Canadian business entrepreneur. It's one of the largest ones planned to be set in America, near the mountains of Utah. And the data center was plopped there before constituents had an ability to talk about it or veto it. Some local people have gotten a lot of news coverage for it. They've had to pause on the development of this because it's, receiving such backlash. I do wonder how many data centers from Microsoft are going to find themselves in a very similar situation. What are your thoughts?
We've got to get this in line, because we're thinking about my nieces and nephews. We're thinking about your grandkids, your great grandkids. I'm trying to think about what we went through car emissions when you and I were young. We had to fix car emissions because, we were polluting the environment. We had to fix some business emissions because they were polluting the environment, and we were thinking about you and I. What our parents were thinking about and our grandparents. Well, now we've got to fix data centers. We've got to fix these emission rules. We've got to fix so there's a planet for our grandkids to live on, and a planet for our great grandkids to live on. And I think I don't know how to fix it, because there will always be a push toward technology, more. And it kind of goes back to the, our podcast here is kind of tying everything together. It goes back to subscription services. Because when I bought that copy of Office 95 back in 1995, I don't recall putting out any emissions when I started using it. I don't. So I think we've got to get to the point where we've rushed ourselves into this AI thing because AI was the next big thing. We didn't care what water we used. We didn't care what emissions. We really didn't care where we built data centers until we started getting public backlash. It was like, we make jokes about where people, where the next Dollar General is going to pop up. We have Dollar Generals in this area. I don't know if you have them down there in Florida or not. The joke is, where is Dollar General going to put the next store? Because they put them in the middle of a field. There is a Dollar General up the road from me, folks. I am not kidding you. It is in the middle of a field. It's the only thing there. There's nothing around it, no nothing. Just a small parking lot and a Dollar General sitting in the middle of a field. They built a driveway so you could pull off the 2-lane highway to get to the Dollar General. There's no houses around it, no nothing. It is sitting in the middle of a field. And this was what was getting ready to happen with data centers until the public backlash happened. Until some political leaders got behind it and said, hey, let's think about what we're doing. So I'm all for AI being here. I use it daily. I'm starting to depend on it a little bit. And I know I'm not alone in that. Products are being made. There's AI slop out there. There's plenty of it. There's all kinds of slop and all kinds of junk. But I think there is enough positive momentum that we've got to figure out how to do it efficiently. And I think that's the next hurdle that we cross. Microsoft has two choices here. They can lead the move to making it efficient. They can end these partnerships as they appear to be doing. NVIDIA can get involved and help make hardware efficient. We know we're burning their GPUs down. We know we're burning RAM. But these hardware manufacturers can team up with people like Microsoft, OpenAI, Amazon, pick your, Google, pick one, and say, let's do this on an efficient basis to where you don't need that big data center. Maybe you start doing it on device. Maybe Apple ends up being the one that's right before all this is over with, because they have said for years, we do it on device. We don't do it in the cloud. And if you notice, Apple is the one that's the furthest behind in AI. But when I was an Apple supporter, day in and day out, I always said one thing.
Was an Apple supporter.
Well, okay, you got me there. I still do support them in some ways, but when I was in the Apple ecosystem, I would always get frustrated and say, why hasn't Apple done this yet? When Windows would do something that I wanted. But when Apple did it, they usually did it right, because they watched what Microsoft didn't do, or they watched what Microsoft didn't do right, or what people didn't like, so they went in and they fixed it. So what's in the back of my mind, Apple has preached neural engine before we ever thought of AI. They have preached on device before we ever thought of AI. They have never had a big cloud presence that they've sold. Have they realized we're going to wait and let Microsoft and Google and all these folks get into all this, big models and this big stuff, and eventually environmentalism is going to catch up to them. And when they have to shrink it down, we're going to be right there to grab our, throw our name in the pot and go, we told you so, now look what we did. We're doing it on device. So for talking for 5 minutes, I appreciate you folks listening, but I think I think that's kind of where we're going to end up. It's just, how long is it going to take us to get there?
Yeah, I agree with you. And to The point of the data centers, and again, basically to the point of most of our conversations for today, and I'll see if I can coalesce all of it and wrap it together. This includes the firing, as well, but this is all about planning and projection and knowing what you plan to do beforehand. If you think you're going to grow or going to shrink, that should be part of your projection, part of your plan, part of how you run your business. And you should try to account for as many variables as possible before you make a decision. We're going to have a lot of companies out here with a lot of compute capability, a lot of data centers that won't be used because AI is only going to go to businesses. And all that free stuff they were letting out and having us play around with, me and you, David, won't be as free, and we won't be using it as much. You're going to have all these data centers that you built up in people's backyards, pumping out, or eating at the resources that won't necessarily be used by the public in general. And the same thing for the firings. Like, you decided you wanted to grow and have your exclusive studios, but now you're shutting studios. It's one or the other. Plan to be like, hey, we're going to be a very lean company with only a handful of exclusives that we really pour into. And with that being said, you have to make them good. You can't just make a Halo 5 and be like, all right, we made a fifth one. Is it good enough? No. If you're going to cut out all the other opportunities for us to game on other things, you got to deliver a Halo 5 that is of the level of like the Spider-Man franchise, where people are like, I picked a console because it was that good. And that means you got to put in the work for it. You got to plan for these kind of things. Same thing again with the data centers and with AI. They seem to be just saying like, hey, we're going to, because line must go up, we're going to push the line up first and then figure out backwards from that what we want to do and what we plan on doing as far as how we move towards AI. To your point of Apple saying like, hey, you know what? We are behind in AI. And instead of rushing and building a bunch of data centers and trying to do it ourselves, we're just going to borrow and see where this bubble goes. We get the best of both worlds. We get the ability to say, hey, we have AI, but we didn't have to invest in all of it. And if the bubble bursts, we don't lose all that much. And if it doesn't, we'll just keep paying for it like we did for search, Google search. Apple phones and Google search was synonymous. The second they tried to put Bing in, people complained. Yandex and GoDaddy, I mean, not GoDaddy, but DuckDuckGo and all these other ones, they don't have a shot. And it works just well for Apple. Paying Google $30 billion a year means that they sell 40 million phones a quarter or whatever, and at the end of the year they make up for it. It works out for them to pay and not invest. And when the next technology comes along, they'll be ready for that one instead. Microsoft is saying, hey, we thought AI was the big thing, and now our users are telling us they don't want it in Windows, they don't want it splashed everywhere. We're going to have to pull back and figure out where we're going to put it strategically. They should have done that from the beginning. They could have said, hey, you know what? We have this Copilot, we have OpenAI, but we're going to deploy OpenAI in very targeted areas first. And if it happens to have applications outside of that, which I think a lot of good things do, they start off as one thing, and if they can branch out to other things, it's great, as opposed to trying to be everything all at once and not being good at any of it. That's what Microsoft did with Copilot. They should have just said, hey, we're going to do a small language model that works for a handful of enterprise things, and it does it really well. And that is the guidance on what people expect from AI. We don't know what to expect from AI because it says it can do everything, and then when we use it, we're like, it doesn't do any of that well. All part of the planning. Microsoft needs to, and every company needs to sit back and say, all right, what are we going to do with AI? And where do we plan to be in 1 year with what our AI product does, not what we think it can do all the time, everywhere, all at once. That's my rant. Getting off my soapbox. I'm going to end the show with something fun, and that is our free play days. Let's get some people gaming.
I'm just going to shoot through these since we're doing this on a weekend, so maybe people can go ahead and jump into these, and at least if this is the first time you're hearing about it, at least enjoy some gaming here. Let's get this up. We've got MLB The Show 26 in free play days this week. Everybody knows what MLB 26 is. That is the baseball simulator that used to be a Sony only product. A lot of people bought a PlayStation just to play MLB The Show back in the day, but now we've got it on Xbox. Check it out. It is on sale for $29.99. We've got that. We have, let's see, with the altars. This looked kind of interesting to me where you played as alternate personalities who act, some people live alternate personalities, but now you can do it in a game and you have to figure out a way for your alternate personalities to survive, how they're going to work emotionally, how they're going to have variations of you, how they're going to survive on the planet. You work as a team. You can work with your alternates in team play. So, it's kind of like, people say you go crazy, there's more versions of you. Well, now you can do it in a video game. That is $17.49, down from $34.99. And the last one, we have 3 this week. We've got Stuffed. Stuffed is a spooky, fast-paced first-person shooter action game where you play as a teddy bear. Hence the name Stuffed. This took me a minute. 4-player co-op game is quirky, chaotic, and perfect for fans of arcade shooters. This one is $12.49. So, buddy, we've got a big variety. The sports fans get the big name AAA title, MLB The Show 26. The others, the alters, Stuffed. These were 2 games that I haven't heard of. I'll give you a little tip. I tried out the alters last night. Not a bad game. I enjoyed it. Haven't tried out Stuffed yet. Playing a first-person shooter as a teddy bear. I don't know about that. I kind of like my teddy bears as nice, gentle people, snuggle with. But now we're going to shoot as teddy bears, so I'll try that one maybe later this evening. And I have played MLB The Show in the past. I have not tried MLB The Show 26, but maybe tomorrow I will give that one a try as well. Have you tried any of these, or are you trying any of these? If not, what are you trying?
I have not tried any of these, but watching the trailer for stuff, for those of you who are listening, it reminds me of the question I had of what if Woody had an actual gun? Woody from Toy Story. That's what it looks like. It looks like a bunch of the bears from Toy Story 3, which was, I think, what was his name? Something Hugs a Lot or whatever.
Something like that.
Whatever the bear's name was, the villain in Toy Story 3. It's like if he were running around with a gun. It looks fun, looks entertaining. It also has a little creepy element. It looks like I might actually get into alters. That I saw I was watching the trailer with you guys in real time, so I don't know if you saw my reaction, but it looks very interesting. The trailer starts off with the guy getting out of bed, using some kind of futuristic space station looking like. He walks down the hall, enters a room, and there's 4 or 5 people working on another astronaut who looks like he may have died in space. Guy leans over, dramatic pause. It's him. Then he backs up, and the scientists and doctors that are operating are all him. So I am very intrigued as to what this looks like. The graphics look pretty decent. So I may be playing that this weekend. If I'm not doing that, then I will probably be still playing Gotham Knights, because I paid $8 for it, and it's a lot of replayability. It's well worth its weight.
My man's going to get his $8, folks.
I'm gonna get more than my $8 from this thing. It has been awesome, and I think, like I said, it came as part of a complete package. So I think it already has some other DLCs that were already preloaded in it. It was a great deal. I don't think the deal is still around, but it's great. I actually may get into, I think Power World 1.0 has been released. So if you want to stick it to Nintendo and don't want to have them pay for royalties for Pokemon, Power World is something else you can play on Xbox, I believe. So I'll be playing those 2. Where can people find you, hang out with you, chat with you, if they want to hang out with you this weekend?
David PHA 1978 over on the Blue Sky, or David PHA over on the Twitchers. You can find me there. I will be most likely playing something later this evening after dinner. And I will most likely be playing something during the day tomorrow and probably into the early evening. Weather here is kind of at that summer pattern of showers, and we're kind of in that shower pattern here where I am for a couple days. So afternoon and evenings is where you're going to find me, in a room with a game somewhere. Most likely there's not a whole lot on TV I really want to see this weekend. just not in that mood this weekend. So I've been gaming. I gamed last night, had a good time. Probably will do the same tonight and tomorrow.
Well, I will be I'll do some gaming probably in the later evening. But the Emmys just came out, and I kind of wanted to, or Emmy nominations. I kind of want to get a list of some shows I want to catch up on. I hear, oh my God, what is it called? It's on Hulu. Starts with a P. Anyways, basically what I'll be trying to do is catching up on all the shows that have been nominated, just so I'm aware for when the awards come out, I can say that's BS. I'll at least know what I'm talking about. So I will be watching some of the shows that are Emmy nominated. It's one of the ones that aren't. It sounds like Apple TV is getting a bunch of good shows. So it may be time for me to fork out some money to go see. I think it's Pluribus is one. There's this
time to get another subscription, buddy.
I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to offset the ones I drop, because I think I'm dropping Paramount and Peacock, and maybe I'll pick up Apple TV in its place. So,
well, I'm lucky. We use Instacart and DoorDash, and right now Peacock is free with one, and Paramount's free with the other. So
yeah, I get HBO for free with AT&T. So it's really Netflix that I'm paying for and Disney Plus. So again, I'm offsetting the new charge for Apple TV, which again sounds like there's a bunch of good new shows for Peacock and Paramount. I'm getting rid of those. So you can find me watching those. Maybe I will be on Letterboxd giving my reviews on the episodes and the shows or the movies. That's another thing I might do. I might try and just go movie hopping tomorrow after I got some more yard work to do in the morning. But I think to relax and get out of the weather you just described, because it's down here as well, incremental rain / heat that just makes humidity disgusting, I may run off to the theaters. I suggest you guys run off to a theater if you can. Enjoy the theater experience if you can, because I think it's great. I love popcorn. I love soda. I love being around other people to laugh even louder at things I might have just chuckled with at home. And if you can find it for cheap, I know it's expensive, but if you can get a matinee, I suggest you do that. Take the kids, take a friend, take a bunch of friends, go grab ice cream or lunch afterwards and talk about what you just saw. I feel we missed that with some of the streaming experiences that we have. That's me getting off my old man soapbox. You guys go enjoy your weekend. Go enjoy that ice cream. Go enjoy that movie. Go enjoy those video games. Go enjoy some barbecue while it's dry out. Whatever you're going to do, enjoy it. And we will see you guys again next week.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend.